Today is the 13th of December. Time's moving forward, and this is the Scott County Fiscal Court business meeting. I would ask you all to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. With that said, I'll ask Ms. Hamilton if she would call the roll.
Mr. Hostetler.
Present.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Corman.
Present.
Mr. Ellison.
Here.
Mr. Pratt.
Here.
Mr. Livingston. Mr. Culbertson.
Here.
Judge Covington.
Present. Thank you. We have a quorum and we can proceed with our business. First item is the minutes from 11/26. They were shared by email. Would there be a motion to accept as presented?
Motion.
Motion?
For both of them.
You like, okay.
I mean,
Approve
for both.
11/26 and 12/4. Motion in a second. Mr. Jones with the second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Transfers as presented. Any questions or comments?
I don't think we had any.
Don't have
We're
it.
just
Sorry, that's just.
all right. We'll skip down to bills and handshakes. But we do move from general to road, 200,000 from general to jail, 300,000 from general to capital, 476,341, and then you had the other handshakes as presented. Any questions or comments there? Motion. Second from Mr. Wallace. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Clerk's fees in the amount of $136,609.53 were presented. Let the record reflect that. Sheriff's fees in the amount of $22,248.52 were presented. Let the record reflect that. And then sheriff property taxes in the amount of $2,998,616.74 were presented. Let the record reflect that. Thank you very much. Number 8. This is a first reading of a summary of the cannabis business zoning 2411, and my understanding from this first reading that all of the licenses have been distributed except for dispensary license for our region, and that is on the 16th via lottery. To my knowledge, no other license has been awarded to any Scott County resident or request for a license in Scott County to operate in Scott County. So this would be a first reading, and I'm going to ask Cam to read the summary. Then we'll offer any comment or opportunity for comment or question.
Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 24-11, an ordinance amending Article 2 of the Georgetown Scott County Zoning Ordinance regarding medicinal cannabis business operations. Summary. 1. Establishes definitions for medicinal cannabis, medicinal cannabis businesses, medicinal cannabis cardholder, medicinal cannabis cultivator, medicinal cannabis dispensary, medicinal cannabis processor, medicinal cannabis producer, medicinal cannabis product, and medicinal cannabis safety compliance facility. 2. Establishes medicinal cannabis regulations for the purpose of developing local standards for the placement and development of medicinal cannabis land uses, minimizing potential adverse impacts, providing a consistent and predictable path for development, establishing siting standards, and preserving the essential character of adjacent areas. 3. Establishes general development standards applicable to all medicinal cannabis businesses. 4. Establishes a use review table. 5. Establishes specific development standards for cultivators, producers, safety compliance facilities, and dispensaries. 6. Contains severability provisions, provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, and takes effect upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination at the office of the Scott Fiscal Court, Clerk, 101 East Main Street, Georgetown, Kentucky 40324, introduced and publicly read for the first time December 13th, 2024.
Questions or comments?
So, Judge, I assume the city and the county are going to pass the same
The
ordinance.
city has moved forward with the same language.
Now, as far as the taxation of the sale of cannabis, that will come at a later time. And how, do you have any insight on that?
So Cam and I, the only understanding that Cam and I have, because we've met with Emily and Mayor Jenkins, is that we can establish a reasonable fee, but the taxation, we would not be able to establish any additional tax on the sale of medicinal cannabis other than, I mean, that's we can establish a reasonable fee, and I think
Yeah.
what we had, did we put $500?
Well, we haven't settled on it. I
Yeah.
think we talked about some different amounts. I think maybe Fayette County does $500. I reached out to Rich Ornstein. Quite honestly, I think this is pretty new, so I don't think we have a lot of guidance on the numbers that other jurisdictions are using at this time.
I will say I'm going to recuse myself. I've talked to Cam and Joe. I'm going to recuse myself from a lot of this. But what your question I don't feel like is kind of general. The law specifically states you can't tax because it's medicine. You can't tax, like you don't get taxed at CVS. You don't get taxed on this, so you
Right.
can't put a tax in. But I'm going to recuse from the rest of the conversation.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because the city has established a tax rate for alcohol. So if, I would assume that.
But
yeah.
what Ryan is saying is correct.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying, I didn't know if that was something that we're going to have to deal with at some point in the future. It sounds like nothing you establish is a licensing fee, and that's about all that you could do at this juncture.
Yeah.
I would think if it ever becomes recreational, then we can probably do something.
No, I think it's,
Hey,
yes.
hey, Cam, has the Stamping Ground or Sadieville reached out to you about this also?
They have not. And I don't know, has Planning Commission heard anything from Stamping Ground or Sadieville? No, I know I'm
I'm
putting you
not
on the
familiar
spot.
with anything within the city of Stamping Ground, but I do know Sadieville passed a resolution by commission item action to not have that in their city limits.
Okay.
So they are not being considered at this time, and I don't know what the city
I
of
know I
Stamping
talked
Ground
to
is.
Stamping Ground, but I didn't know if they'd come up with anything.
At some point, at one of these meetings, I've seen a map, maybe that shows like the time, place, and manner restrictions of where these can be. It's pretty restricted, isn't it? Yeah.
I would say so, yes.
Like there's not because of the restrictions, the window of opportunity is not very big, and it's pretty narrow.
Yes, I would say so. No residential zones. The state law policy about the proximity to schools, we've added daycares, and the proximity to residential areas as well. So it's mostly just around the interstates and other parcelage in that area, so.
Any other questions?
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Jones,
I'll second.
second from Mr. Wallace. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll do yes, please reflect that Ryan recused himself. Now, ordinance 2412, first reading, zone change, Industry Road. Elise, do you want to make any comments? And then Zach, would you put up the, there you go. So this was just a visual that shows you the actual parcel off of Industry Road. It's going from A1 to I1 is the request. And Elise, do you want to make any comment?
At this time, not really. I think the record kind of works pretty well by itself, but if you guys have any particular questions on it, I'm free to answer them.
And then I just want to point out to make everybody that shaded kind of grayish purple is the city limit.
I'm ask that question.
Yeah, that's the city limit that's been annexed into the city. So I just wanted everybody to have this visual.
Is that also the zone that they're asking for? Is the same?
It's the same shade of gray, and then they're not asking to be annexed in at this time. They've requested that it be waived until such time that water and sewer be available to that area, and then at that point, they would consent to annex it.
But one of the conditions is that when that is available, that they will be annexed.
Yes, that's
Oh,
correct.
that is a condition.
That is a condition.
Yeah. Water and sewer then.
I believe that on the development plan that was filed after this, they were wanting to use a septic system or field. And then for water connection, I do believe there's water in the area, but I do not believe it maybe at the urban pressure, or they're just really waiting until that sanitary sewer comes in. But I'll defer those kind of comments to the size of the line and everything like that to the water company in the area.
What other questions?
That was going to be my question. There's only one piece of property left, according to, I watched I appreciate that too. You sending that link, it makes it quick and easy. I watched the record when you presented it at Planning Commission. That piece of property, I guess, just below the red rectangle that we're looking at is the only one left besides the one we're looking at
Yes, that's correct.
out there on Industry Road. So, but I was going to ask the same question about water and sewer. So, because in the record, y'all talked about that quite a bit. That it wasn't there yet. It's on the street, but I don't think it's extended to the property.
No.
So,
yeah. They have like an access easement through the parcel that's directly to the north, that kind of T shape, and it attaches to the end of Industry Road that's publicly maintained. And to my understanding, and I may be a little bit off on the exact location, but I believe sewer makes it a portion of the way up Industry Road, but it doesn't make it all the way up. So
Right.
extending the line for this one user and then requiring that annexation just at this time didn't really seem appropriate for staff to recommend that they be annexed in it.
but they have enough property if they want to do a septic system.
Yeah, it's a 5-acre parcel.
Gotcha.
Any other questions or comments?
Motion, Judge.
There's a motion. Well, we need to read the.
My bad.
We need to read.
All right.
That's all right.
Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 2412, an ordinance related to changing the zone for 5.00 acres, more or less, owned by 2 Alpha LLC, said property situated on Industry Road at parcel number 185-30-009.002, from A1 Agricultural to I1 Light Industrial. Whereas the application of 2 Alpha LLC having been filed with the Georgetown Scott County Planning Commission requesting a zoning classification change A1 Agricultural to I1 Light Industrial for 5.00 acres, more or less, situated at parcel number 185-30-009-002 on Industry Road in Scott County, Kentucky. Whereas the matter having been heard publicly by the Planning Commission on October the 10th, 2024, pursuant to notice according to law and with a quorum of the Commission present and voting, and whereas after taking testimony on the application and fully considering same, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the rezoning request. And whereas the Scott County Fiscal Court, after fully considering the application, record, and recommendation of the Planning Commission, hereby accepts the Planning Commission's recommendation and grants the requested zoning classification change for the subject property from A1 Agricultural to I1 Light Industrial. Now therefore be it ordained by the Scott County Fiscal Court, Section 1, that the Georgetown Scott County zoning ordinance be amended to show a change in the zoning classification for 5.00 acres, more or less, situated at parcel number 185-30-009-002 on Industry Road in Scott County, Kentucky, as described in the application for the property of 2 Alpha LLC from A1 Agricultural to I1 Light Industrial, all in accordance with the application for same, said property being the same property conveyed to 2 Alpha LLC, a Kentucky limited liability company, from Lois Ann Bruick and John Calvin Bruick Jr., a.k.a. Joe C. Bruick Jr., by and through his attorney-in-fact, Lois Ann Bruick, husband and wife, by deed of conveyance made and entered into the 26th day of April 2013, and of record at Deed Book 351, page 385, Scott County Clerk's Office. Section 2, that the Georgetown Scott County Planning Commission is hereby directed to show the zoning classification change on the official zone map and to refer to the number of this ordinance. First reading approved December 13th, 2024.
So any other questions or comments related to the reading? And then we have a motion from Mr. Rick Hostetler, second from Kelly Corman. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Now we'll move down to number 11, Detention Center Agreement for Net Service Device. Cam did a follow-up and some conversations with Rich Ornstein. Do you want to share with that was brought up previously?
Sure. Essentially, Mr. Livingston had asked me to reach out to KCO to see if there were any liability concerns. I did reach out to Mr. Ornstein. He really kind of generally indicated he did not have concerns. Maybe he had additionally had some questions about the net device generally. He had been to a conference and learned more about it. And after learning more, he didn't see liability concerns that would prevent us from moving forward. I think Mr. Livingston also asked about being concerned about agreements that had hold harmless indemnification clauses or choice of venue clauses. This agreement doesn't have either of those, but his concerns are well raised, and we'll certainly look out for that moving forward.
I always appreciate that critical eye in making, David's in the insurance industry, so
Yeah.
appreciate that very much. So what questions would anyone have as the service agreement's presented? And then Jailer Broyles, do you have anything to add? I think this is a positive thing to do, and I would hope that we could move forward.
I have a question for the jailer. Will the SOPs be updated?
And I apologize.
Yeah.
Because that was on there, and we talked internally yesterday. We're going to do that on the 27th, and I meant to mention that before I skipped it. But on the SOPs on the 27th, we'll have that.
It'll be updated to reflect the net device and,
Yes.
I mean, how it's administered and all that type of
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's going to be part of the update to the SOPs.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only question I have.
Motion.
Second.
Second from Mr. Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move forward. Thank
Great.
you, and
Thank you.
thank you. Appreciate it. Now, I don't know about that IU sweater, but well, thank you. It's all love. It's all love. So next, Gathering Place service renewal. It's essentially a renewal of what we have been doing with the cold weather white flag shelter. And I sent Zach a late email. There you go. This was posted on social media 6 days ago, but I just wanted you all to see. 6 days ago, they had marked 16,000 individuals, 16,000 nights have stayed in that shelter. Now, our agreement is for when it dips below 32. But they are working and above 95. I'm sorry, I forgot about the above 95. But I just wanted you all to see that number of, and it's a real number, and a lot of people that are going there to get shelter, and I appreciate the court's efforts to help in this respect. And Mike Hannigan can speak that, we're glad to be where we're at today, aren't we? What questions or comments would anyone?
I'm on average, I don't know, this is the average, about 40 people a night, 40 to 50 people a night? 43?
Our banker, our
Teacher,
mortgage.
I'm not a math teacher, so.
Our mortgage house, 43.8. But that's real, and I'm very grateful for the mission of the Gathering Place and the heart of the Gathering Place, and appreciate what they're doing. Candace, do you have any comments? Okay. Anyone entertain a motion to approve? Motion from Ryan Pratt and second from Dwayne Ellis.
The only question I have, is this still called the White Flag Shelter? I thought we called it something else now.
No, so for you all's funding purposes, I think white flag is appropriate because you're still temperature dependent on what nights and days you fund. But in general in the community, I'm trying to shift it to low barrier because they're open every single day, and the point is that anybody can enter regardless of what's happening with them. So low barrier is probably the name that you'll hear.
Mike, I do have a question. Like, how are we tracking those individuals, and how many are there every night, and are they trying to, if they're there every night, are we trying to get them out, if they're just random, on their way somewhere else?
Yeah, Heather loves data, so she's been tracking pretty closely, so I can ask her to send out some data if that's helpful. But yes, I think you have a mixture of some people who are there for a few nights, but then she's had a really high percentage of folks who are transferring from the low barrier into other programming, like the Gathering Place programming or Elizabeth's Village or something like that. That low barrier is supposed to be, what the intention is that it's a kind of an entryway for them if they're nervous about going into a larger, more restrictive program, or even transferring them to like rehabilitation centers, things like that. It's just a safe place to kind of build trust, and then once they figure out, oh, I can kind of trust these folks with my goals, then she's moving them in the right direction. So
Yeah, I would like to see that data.
Okay.
She has it already.
I'm sure she
I don't
does.
want to make more work.
No, she loves tracking, so
Cool.
which is why they have that great number posted.
Yeah.
So
I just thought it was appropriate to show that number
Yeah.
and
Sure.
share.
Yeah.
Data is important. That's, I agree with you. I'd like to see that number. So we've got a motion. We have a second. Any other questions or comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to Mike Hennigan. Mike, how are you?
Morning. As we discussed at the workshop last week, it's time to update the emergency operations plan, requesting authorization for the judge to sign the basic plan and adopt the basic plan as the method of operation for Scott County during times of emergency and disaster.
It's a 100-pager, and it's
If you want the other 900 pages,
it
I'm
was
happy to share.
1,000-pager at one time. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so, wasn't it? Over 1,000 pages to begin with?
The basic plan is 100. There are 15 ESFs that are about 50 pages apiece, so add another 750 to 1,000.
All right.
So.
Any questions or comments for Mike? Would there be a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion? Second. Mr. Jones, any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Judge,
Got that letter sent to Esther, too.
I saw that.
Judge, can I ask Mike a question?
Yes, sir.
So the property out on Leesburg Road.
Yeah.
That's a letter I'm talking about.
Oh,
So I sent a letter yesterday officially requesting that the FEMA allow us to lease it.
okay.
So I think it's just a box checker.
Yeah, and that letter has to go to KYEM, who's administering the grant, as long as they make sure that it fits all of the requirements for the FEMA deed restrictions. Then they'll push it forward, and we'll probably get an answer within 3 or 4 weeks.
So if you all want to entertain a new business, upon the receipt of that letter, could we go ahead and advertise to take sealed bids for would you want to do a 2 or 3 year lease?
Well, before
So you go ahead.
Yeah, my question was, and I asked you this question previously, if the county deeded over the property to a nonprofit, could the nonprofit at that point then sell the property if they had it for so many years or something along those lines?
I would
and then
have to-
they could, the revenue that they would generate could be something that would offset any contribution that the county would make to fill in the nonprofit, just a blank. But that's
Right.
where I'm kind of going with this.
I would have to, they're very specific what nonprofits could do it, some sort of restoration or, antiquities. There's,
So not just any nonprofit. We couldn't sit in
No,
a
it-
gathering place and they
No,
sell it. It'd
right.
have to go to something specific.
No, it'd have to be nature related or water improvement. If you wanted to do a nonprofit that was making a wet garden or some sort of thing like that, that would be possible. But I think the most efficient way for the county to move forward is to do the lease.
Okay.
If an adjoining property owner wanted to pasture their horses or something like that, it would be a whole lot more efficient to operate that way.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. And then I'll go back. When we get that letter back that approves us, I'll come to you all and ask you to approve putting out a bid, to accept sealed bids. And we'll list the restrictions. You can't build anything on it. You can pasture animals. What else, Mike?
Like I said, creating some sort of green space for the neighborhood. If they wanted to put a playground or something over there, I got when we first started talking about selling the property, I got a 2-page letter written in red ink about all the different things that could or could not be done.
Can you turn soil over on it or no?
Yes, as long as it doesn't affect the drainage or anything that could cause flooding in the future. And the big thing with this property is the fact that the county built a bridge on Leesburg Pike, which forced the flooding of this property. So we're under a little bit tighter constrictions than normal because there was, all of that stuff. They tried to sue the county government. They tried to sue just about everybody because when they bought the property, it didn't flood, and then they upgraded Leesburg Pike, and it started to flood. So
that's been years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
With that said, then, any other questions?
When we do the lease, can we ask whoever leases it possibly at least weedy? And I know we'll somewhat maintain it so the neighbors, just so that we know that whoever gets it, they're aware that surrounding.
And we can put
properties-
language in there
Yeah.
that should be maintained to code enforcement standards or whatever. I don't know how to word it, but
Right. I think it'd be a good idea to do a 1-year lease with the right of first refusal option for a second year, so that way, we can see for a year and see if they do well, then, if not, then we're not stuck for 3 years with them.
Accept it for a year and then renew up to 3 years. Each year.
Yeah, something like that. See if we get any complaints or anything.
okay. When we get that back, I'll circle back to you, unless you all want to go ahead and approve it in new business. Well, thanks, Mike. We'll go to Animal Control new hire, Jeff Mudrack.
Yes, good morning. On behalf of Sherry Bishop, I'm pleased to recommend the appointment of Nadia McKittrick as an animal control officer beginning January 6th. Her pay rate will be $19.39 an hour. She has more than 6 years of experience, and based upon the interview and the reference checks I did, I think she'll be a good fit for the department. So I present that recommendation to you.
Questions or comments?
Staffing?
It puts them, I think this gets them back to, no, they're still one short. They just had a resignation, yeah. So we have that job posted right now.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That brings us to Chief Ward, Fire Department bid advertisement request. Chief, how are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you all?
Good.
Judge Magistrates, we were looking to seek your all's approval to be able to go out to bid to upgrade our fire hose, nozzles, and appliances. Currently, just to kind of summarize, we tried to go after a grant to secure this project. We were unsuccessful with the grant. We do have that money that was budgeted in our special projects account, so that money is there to be able to use, but basically seeking your all's approval to bid this out and to move forward with this project.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all.
All right. That leads us to number 16, Soil Conservation Storage Agreement. And CAM amended this
To a 1 year.
to a 1 year that's renewable. Does the language say that in there?
It says it's, I think it's just for 1 year. I guess we can always come back to it.
Yeah.
The expiration.
Item 2 says 1 year.
Okay. And then the only other thing is, the request was really just for like one bay of the salt barn. You put in salt barn. Do we need to modify it to one bay of the salt barn? What questions or comments would anyone have?
The only question I had is it says they're responsible for utilities. Like, how does it?
There is, I don't think there's any,
Take that out if you want.
Yeah, I don't,
modifying a unrelated.
we'll take that out
Says
too.
says we pay them. That's what it, on 7.
Yeah.
I can just take that out.
They get their budget from the fiscal court, so we'd be paying our,
Let's
Yeah.
take that out.
yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Was it just storing a couple of pieces of equipment?
What they want to do, Philip Howard approached me about, and JR, about, they want to start a program where they buy like some equipment like manure spreaders, chain hires, drags, that they can put there that farmers might be able to check out and borrow and then return. They wanted to use that location because it's kind of a central location. It's next to the ag extension, and that was the thought process.
I'll modify it.
Okay. Motion as amended, second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I apologize, I didn't get the motion.
I was
Rob.
It's because of me.
It was Rick and Rob as a second. We'll move now down to board appointments that I shared. And let me find my email. The first one that I shared was a Parks and Rec Board recommendation. And that was Mr. Neil Thompson. Shared that application. It's replacing Ron Flannery and would, become effective January 1, and then the term would end 12/31/28. And as I shared in the email, Matt Nunn contacted me about Mr. Thompson. Drew, you know Mr. Thompson as well. And then I think Dwayne, you know him as well. So any questions or comments related to that recommendation? Would there be a motion? Motion from Mr. Ellison, second from Mr. Wallace. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next one, we have Georgetown Scott County Code Enforcement Board. Can we do this together?
The boards can be together, yes.
Yes. So, as I shared, these are joint appointments, and there is one for a board appointment, first term, Casey Zubikowski, and Damon Thayer recommended Casey as well, and his term would go through December 31st, 2027. And then we have 2 reappointments, Johnny Saunders and Jane Lucas. They are joint alternates, and their terms would go through December 31st, 2027. Any questions or comments? Would there be a motion? Motion from Rick Hostetler and a second from Rob Jones. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Kyle Kepley has been an applicant for the Georgetown Scott County Airport Board. I was able to contact Kyle. He was actually out of the country working, but very interested in serving, thinks he could be a good board member, and talked to Steve Woodrum about Kyle as well, and Steve knows him personally and thinks he would be a good asset as well. So this is a joint appointment. This term would go through December 31st, 2028. Any questions or comments about that recommendation? Yes. Motion from Kelly, second from Ryan. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Then we move to the Tourism Board, and these are joint appointments. These are a little different. Mayor gets a selection, county gets a selection, county judge gets a selection, and then the hotel motel, there's 2 positions that are recommended through the hotel motel group. And what has been recommended, Tom Carr mayor's selection. Tom owns Preferred Vacations. I think many of us know Tom. You know Tom, Kelly. He lives out off of Lemons Mill.
Tom's a great guy.
Yeah, and has ran this Preferred Vacations for a long time. And then a reappointment is Risa Browning, local business owner, been very involved. That term would come up December 31st, 2027. And then a reappointment for one of the hotel motel positions is Melissa Harrington, with that coming up December 31st, 2027. And then a new appointment would be Amanda Ernst, and her term would go through December 31st, 2027. I think she works for Rainmaker Hospitality, and lives here in Georgetown, of course. Comments or questions about the tourism board?
I'm for all of them, but with Reese, I'll have to kind of abstain, not vote for her.
Okay.
Just because of
We'll
some
have to do
business
them
dealings.
separate then, 'cause
That's the only one I can't vote for.
that's the judge's selection. You want to do it separate?
We can.
Okay. I'll make a motion to appoint Tom Carr.
Okay. We have a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Would there be a motion to reappoint Risa Browning? Ryan Pratt, second with Kelly. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And
That's
then,
the one
and then, and
That's the
then
only one I
Rob has to, he's recusing himself. And then the two hotel motel, Melissa Harrington with the reappointment, and then Amanda Ernst. Motion from Rick, second from Ryan. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That leads us to Drew is here for some new business, and wanted to share. I shared this by email yesterday, and we authorized moving forward with the disc golf. I asked Drew to bring a sample of the sign. And those signs were made by whom?
The students at Great Crossing.
I mean, hold that up again, Drew.
Yeah.
I mean, that is amazing to me.
One
That
of
our
which is in my
kids at
house,
Great
so-
Crossing High School.
I'm even more surprised my son helped, so.
Oh, all right. Even more shocked. But they came in under budget. We figured around 18,000, and their folks did a lot of concrete work and a lot of the work. So they were looking at about $10,663 worth of expense. And I talked to Drew, and one of the topics I'd talked to Drew about was over in Scott County Park. There's some lights that had been vandalized or whatever, and I said, Drew, how much do we have? How much would it cost for us to fix those lights? Because they need to be fixed. And Drew came up 9 pole light fixtures and then 3 poles to have new LED fixtures installed on them. It's about $3,300 from Younger Electric. And Drew suggested, like, since we have this excess money that we had budgeted, could we go ahead and fix those lights using that excess money out of the budget, and then possibly also buy around $4,000 worth of either a combination of trash cans or the benches. So I think it's a good use of the money. I'll let Drew make comment, and then we'll go with questions from you all.
Yeah, the first thing I'd love to say is while we're $8,000 under budget is our outdoor maintenance staff. So Larry Brandenburg and his team, I wish he was here. But
oh, goodness.
Yeah. So he's getting ready to retire in a few days.
Yeah.
But, with that's the number one reason, and the fact that we could have the signs made at Great Crossing High School is a big cost savings. So everything I've requested in there I think is needed. You already approved the funding originally, so we're just kind of reallocating some other projects in the same park. And I'll answer any
So
questions.
Mr. Younger's price is labor, materials, and everything?
Yes. Yep.
Complete job, motion, Judge.
Motion. Second, Dwayne. Any other questions or comments? Motion to do the lighting repair and then purchase benches and garbage cans to fill out the other $4,000.
And those will go throughout the course, so that was, oh, it's
$500-600
ridiculous.
bucks.
I put it in the
So you won't
email.
get a ton of them.
Will Friends of the Park be able to sell plaques for them?
Sure. We'll sell anything that's not bolted down.
It's okay if it's moving.
So we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome.
And Judge, I talked to Drew earlier. They've started adding signage to all the parks. So if you should, I know one's on Lyle Road. They're doing one at Scott County Park, and it's looking really nice. So, I know the Stamping Ground parade's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is that right? And I'm coming down with you tonight at
Tonight,
5:20.
Judge a few houses with some lights on them.
We're going to drive around. I'm going to judge some houses.
Appreciate you coming down.
Down there for Stamping Ground.
Billy Hicks today.
Billy Hicks, the tournament's going on. Was able to go out on Wednesday night. Dwayne was there, and I know, but there was a good crowd there. They dedicated the gym to Coach Hicks. I thought that was very appropriate and classy. I thought it was a nice night. Yeah.
You got to give him credit. He did a good job.
Anybody else have any new business, or anyone else in our audience? Any other new business? With that said, then, we will move down to, we need to have a motion to go into executive session for KRS 61810-1C. And would there be a motion?
Motion.
Motion from Mr. Jones, second from Mr. Hosteller. In favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're going to. Sorry. Okay, is there a motion to come out of closed session? We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are out of closed session. Coming out of closed session, would there be a motion to accept the agreed judgment that was discussed in closed session?
Motion.
Motion?
Hold on just a second. Cam, will you,
He's going to read the agreed judgment.
so will you tell me what to put as the motion?
Yes, there's been a motion to accept the proposed agreed judgment, and it's in Scott County Circuit Court, case number 24-CI-855. No problem. And I'll read it now.
So go ahead.
Or, you ready?
Yes.
So this is in that case. The plaintiffs are Richard Murphy, Karen Murphy, Robert L. Elliott, Thomas J.B. Reed, Carolyn P. Reed, and Jason Tackett. The defendants are the Scott County Fiscal Court and the Georgetown Scott County Planning Commission. This is a proposed agreed judgment. Come now the parties by counsel and tender this agreed judgment to the court for review and entry. Court, having considered the record and being fully advised, is hereby ordered that 1, notwithstanding that the parties dispute the appropriateness and sufficiency of the procedures surrounding their adoption, for purposes of resolving this case, the parties agree that the following ordinances are void. Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 2310 pertaining to RV campgrounds, which was adopted on October 26, 2023, and Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 24-06 pertaining to RV campgrounds, which was adopted on September 13, 2024. Accordingly, neither Scott County Fiscal Court Ordinance Number 2310 nor 2406 can be relied upon in considering any zone change applications. Further, all references to the voided ordinances 2310 and 2406 will be removed from the Scott County zoning ordinance by Scott County Planning and Zoning and/or the Scott County Fiscal Court. 2, as currently enacted, the Georgetown Scott County Comprehensive Plan provides that prime farmland is to be protected and preserved from sprawl and development, and the Scott County zoning ordinance provides that prime soils or soils of statewide importance shall not be prevalent in a development within the A1R zone. 3, the parties agree that this agreed judgment is effective upon submission to the court. Considering the above, it appears to the court that this agreed judgment disposes of all issues before this court, and the matter is hereby dismissed without prejudice.
So we have a reading of that, and any other questions or comments? And then do we have a motion from Mr. Jones and a second from Rick Hostetler? Any other questions or comments?
This is a legal point. As I was reading this, I'm going to suggest that it say dismissed with prejudice, but I will talk to Barry about that.
Okay. With that said, we have a motion, we have a second, and any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. With that said, then, that's our last matter of business. Will there be a motion to adjourn? Rick Hostetler, second Kelly Corman. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.